Welcome to episode 36 of the Just Happy to Be Here podcast. It's me, Tanner. And as always, I'm just happy to be here. Thank you for listening to our podcast. We know that when it comes to listening to podcasts, you have like a gazillion options to choose from. So thank you for choosing ours. And if you are listening to us on Apple Podcasts, make sure that you leave us a review. Reviews help others discover our podcast and it boosts our ego. So win-win. Win-win-win. On today's episode, we talk about the things that we Googled and we tackle a question from our listener. So let's not waste any more time. Here is episode 36 of the Just Happy to Be Here podcast. Do you like country music?
I like very little country music. Most country music I just can't do. But there are like some bits of country music that I'll stumble upon that's like more bluegrassy or something, which I really enjoy bluegrass. It's really like very, very pretty, like mountain music, very like technical music. And
yes.
So that stuff that trends that way, I can, and maybe some like, I don't know, some Johnny Cash. It's more like old kind of Western rock kind of stuff. I don't know. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. I don't know if I would classify Johnny Cash as country. I mean, he is, but I think when people say, hey, do you like country music? That's not where their mind goes.
No.
Yeah. It's like, there's something about Johnny Cash where it's like he would have been a punk rock musician had punk rock been around. Like, I firmly believe that. When I was in high school, my brother loves country music. He likes country music. And I don't. It's just not for me. I'm not going to say I hate it or I loathe it. It's just not for me. If it's on, I'm going to say, well, I wish this was something different, but here we are. We're moving forward. But in high school, he would drive me to school, and every morning he would blast country music on our 6-minute drive, 5-minute drive to high school.
Yeah.
And he would do it on purpose, knowing that I didn't like it. I mean, it was a tactical big brother move. And I can't fault him for it. Speaking of country music, did you watch any bit of the inauguration yesterday?
I did watch the inauguration. Yeah, did do that.
Garth Brooks. Did you see Garth Brooks' performance?
I saw. I think I saw him walk out, and then I was working also. So I was trying to balance work and that. So I saw Garth.
Like a good American, I understand. So he sang "God Bless America," or not God. He sang "Amazing Grace," but it was when he walked out, and he's walking out in blue jeans and his cowboy hat.
Oh yeah,
and he basically just tips his hat down to Dr. Jill Biden and President Biden, and then he starts singing. And at the very end, he goes, "Let's all sing this one together." Even if you're at home or at work, let's just all join in together. Like he was attempting, I think, to bring America to church, and I didn't sing along because I'm not a good singer. But I thought it was really good. It was really good. Just the whole inauguration in general was great. And you and I have talked. We talked the other day about Amanda Gorman and her beautiful poem that she shared.
Really talented poet. Really talented poet.
Man. Can you imagine being 22 years old, being asked to write something that the entire country, and I'm sure around the world, is going to hear, and then to deliver it? I just thought, man, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
If somebody were to ask me to do that at 22, I would say, you have the wrong person. And they would have had the wrong person, because I wasn't really writing poetry at 22.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, when I found out she was 22, that blew my mind, because she just carries herself with such a not 22-year-old type of confidence, and especially on that kind of stage. And so, that blew my mind.
Yeah. Well, that was yesterday, and today January 21st, which January 21st has a lot of national whatever days or day of the year.
It sure does.
And there's 4 of them. There's 4 of them, and I think that they're all just not great. But the first one is Get to Know Your Customer Day.
Mm-hmm.
No. We'll talk about that in a second, though. National Granola Bar Day, which is great. I love it. It's fine, but does it need its own day? No. Here's one that I really don't know why we have this. Yeah. National Hugging Day. National Hugging Day.
Mm.
Were you ever somebody who held up a sign, free hugs?
I was not. I was not that person. I will hug you if we're tight. You know, but I'm not. Yeah, I'm not free hug T-shirt wearing levels of hugging.
No, neither. No, I'm not. And truth be told, I might have been at some point in my life, like perhaps in high school.
Yeah.
But who didn't need a little love in high school? But now, and especially after, during COVID, no way. No, thank you.
Maybe
no. It's gonna be a no. It's gonna be a no for me. I don't need, and like I mean, you and I will hug, but like those situations where somebody, but you don't really know them that well.
Yeah.
But it's like, when we say hello, do we hug, or do we not?
Yeah.
And I think we just need to err on the side of we just don't. I'm good. Yeah. I'm good. Let's keep our. This makes me sound like a terrible person. Anyways, today's National Hugging Day.
On that note,
we are not celebrating, but I think we are going to agree that this last one needs to be celebrated by everybody. It is Squirrel Appreciation Day.
Oh, come on. Yeah.
Taylor, that's nuts. Who's coming up with a Squirrel Appreciation Day?
Oh man, that reminds me.
How do you celebrate?
Well, I don't know how others are celebrating, but I know how I'll probably celebrate later on this evening, which is rewatching. There's a video, and I've lost the guy's name, but he's a former NASA engineer, and he created an American Ninja Warrior style obstacle course for squirrels, and technically it was to try to keep them out of the bird feeders in his yard. But just amazing. If you haven't seen it, big recommend. Go search that into YouTube, you'll find it.
We will put that in the show notes, perhaps, if we remember to do that. But speaking of, get to know your customers day.
Yeah.
Taylor, after 8 years, I went to the dentist today.
Yeah, we were talking about this.
I was the customer, and they got to know me. They got to know me. So it had been 8 years since I'd been to the dentist. Probably about 8 years. You lose count really after about 4.
That's true. Speaking from experience.
I walk in and they were like, "So when was the last time that you've been to the dentist?"
Oh boy.
And I said, "What number would make your eyes glaze over?" And they said, "Anything over 20." And I said, "Well, good news."
Good news.
Good news. It has not been 20 years. But man, it was wild. And honestly, for as terrible as the next 2.5 hours were, it was I had great people. They were super kind. I had x-rays taken. Wow. And at one point they had me stand up and like I had to bite down on this just little piece of plastic, and this thing rotated around my head.
What?
And
they've got space technology in dentists now.
I have no idea, man, but they definitely got that from aliens.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
For sure. No human being came up with that. That was straight from aliens. But I sat in that chair for about 2.5 hours. They numbed my whole entire mouth. I had shots all in my face, and then they just were like, they found one cavity, as as my mom would say, PTL, praise the Lord, only
Yep.
one.
Yeah,
Or as
absolutely.
Yellowcard would sing, only one. And I walked out of there and I could not talk correctly for the next 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, it was really great.
Yeah, National Get to Know Your Customer Day. Well, they definitely achieved that. But here's the thing: after all that time I spent with them, didn't feel like giving them a hug. So I think it's going to take a few. I think it's going to take a few more visits.
Yes. And also, if I could add, if anybody wants to hear what that sounded like, they can head on over to the Written to Speak Facebook page and listen to you reading a poem, one of your poems, not someone else's poem. That
Yeah.
I
it's just mine.
It's just yours, and it's great, and it's
just
the
mine.
perfect poem. Needed for it. I don't want to spoil all the surprises, but go ahead and go over there, and you read it just beautifully with a very numbed mouth.
I had no control over my mouth. It was, man. As I sat in the chair, I was just poking my face, and she was like, "You okay?" And I was like, "I can't feel anything." And she goes, "Then it's working." And I said, "I know, but I can't feel it." And you can like feel a little bit, but you just like have no idea. I was having more fun than I probably should have at the dentist while they were deep cleaning my mouth. They used a laser.
What?
A laser.
This is space.
She said it was
this is space tech.
She said it was exactly. I'm telling you, they got all their technology from aliens. But it was a time. I'll just say this: thank the Lord for insurance. Because it was gonna be rough. It was gonna be rough. So that was, I guess, in some ways, one of my New Year's resolutions was to go back to the dentist.
Yep.
And I think that you have also instituted something new into your life. Yeah?
Yes.
You're now a pro athlete.
Oh man, I wish. That would be amazing. Wouldn't that be the day? No, I've started working out again, and I've been at it for about a week and a half. So if that counts as pro athletics, man,
Now,
good deal.
do you work out to get into shape, or so that you can eat sweets?
I think there is definitely some mixture of all of that happening. I think where I've and not to over spiritualize, but really I think what I have been trying to reframe for myself is just like having like taking care of my body and just being active, like processing that through the lens of bodily stewardship. Just as like, if I'm to do everything as unto the Lord, praising the Lord, acknowledging that 1 Corinthians 6, my body is not my own. I really want exercise to flow out of that, because every other time in my life it's been like, try to look good, try to this, try to that, try to all these things that ended up being just like nonsense, and I'd fixate on too much. And anyway, that's a rabbit hole, but that's where I'm trying to process out of, like, so that I keep it healthy. But yeah, there's so many days where I'm like, yeah, I worked out, I can have something delicious now, so I'm gonna go ahead and justify that.
No, I think that's good, and I enjoy how you like to, I wouldn't say over spiritualize things, but you always find a way to bring it back to what really matters. And whereas I try to maybe drift in a different direction and try to say, what's the joke in this, or even worse, how is this going to benefit me? And that's why I work out, and maybe my mindset needs to shift a little bit from, I'm going to work out so that I can have moose tracks. Which, by the way, Sarah brought some moose tracks home.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if I had ever had it, which sounds blasphemous, but it was. I guess I just, in my mind, I thought there was nuts in it. There's no nuts in it. It was just peanut butter cups and fudge, and I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I almost work out to have it.
Yep.
But I do appreciate how you bring everything back to the foundation, like the true foundation, and that's good. If I had a trophy for you, well, I wouldn't give it to you for that because that would be kind of weird. But I don't know why I said that.
So weird that would be. So weird. You'd have
Taylor,
to pick it up
the
at
other
Goodwill
day-
for sure.
Oh yeah. The other day I was on Twitter and I came across this tweet, and I started trying to follow some people who talk more about podcasting, and I think that's like good. Like I wanna learn. But I came across this from a podcast host, and he just kind of mentioned, he says, qualities that make podcasts great for me. And then he lists a few. And the first one is the hosts feel like friends. So I hope that I hope that we feel like friends, not only to each other, but to the listener.
Yeah.
Next thing is they start immediately. They skip intros and ads. Well, we don't have any ads, and we do have an intro. So, like, I'd say 1 for 2, 50% is not a
bad.
passing grade, but, like, yeah, I mean, it's not full of red ink. Next one is they maximize number of fresh takes and great stories. Check. No
Check.
argument there.
Check.
I think. They pre-vet guests for their enthusiasm and insight. Well, that's not us because we don't have any guests yet.
I vet you pretty
and then-
frequently, but
Yeah. And I think you and I, we basically just interview each other the whole time. And that's good. And it says key, interviews are often boring. Discuss ideas over guests' bios. Fascinating. We're going to move on from that. Because then somebody responded and said this. This is totally true. My rule is to avoid discussing topics someone can read on Wikipedia.
ooh.
So Taylor, with that, let's talk about the things that we Googled recently. not the things that we found on Wikipedia.
That's right.
But the things that we Googled. I read that and I was like, you know what? I enjoy this segment of what we recently Googled because it's talking about the things that we were thinking about and
That's
the things
right.
that we were wondering. And I think the things that we're bringing to the table today is really going to show our maturity and our ability to just engage with the world and give the viewers, our friends, our listeners, again, our friends, an insight as to what their friends, us,
Yeah.
are doing, are learning, and how you and I are growing. So Taylor, what's one thing that you recently Googled this past week?
Yeah, really glad you built that up the way that you did. And you know, as we rate ourselves according to that standard, I think we did a pretty good job. Yeah, Google for me. So I was searching for Tennessee Volunteers memes, because for you sports fans out there, bit of a dismal situation out in the Rocky Top country right now. As far as football goes, we lost our head coach Jeremy Pruitt, fired due to some allegedly lots of code breaking, according to the NCAA Division I code, which is never something you want to hear out of your coach. And then our AD and legendary Tennessee Volunteers football coach Philip Fulmer retired this week, right as this was happening, for unrelated reasons. And so I was apparently this is generating a lot of good memes, and it's true. Yeah, there are a lot of good memes generated out of this situation. It's rough. A long-term Tennessee Volunteer football fan here, but you know, them's the breaks. And 20 years from now, 5 years from now, probably next year at this time, we'll have already forgotten it. So there that is.
I think it is so hilarious that they paid their players. They put wads of cash into McDonald's bags and were handing them around.
Yeah, and that would be the main meme there.
That's it. So the day that story broke, the Florida Gators, the team that I cheer for, who we're not very good at sports right currently, But we played Tennessee, and we played Tennessee in basketball. And sorry, Taylor, the Gators beat the Tennessee Vols. And this is how I heard about the story: is that they tweeted like the score of the game and just said, "We're loving it," with kind of like a winky face. And I was like, "That's awesome." But today, Pancake and I were walking. And we walk up the street, and it's just like a dead end. But we just walk down to the end and walk back. And I saw a McDonald's bag, like sitting there, and it was just full. And a little inside information: where we live, people frequently just kind of throw trash out of their car, so it's not like uncommon for me to see this. But this bag was like sitting there perfectly, and it had 2 drinks that were sitting next to it perfectly as well. And I thought, for a second, maybe, just maybe, there's a wad of cash in there. But the bag looked pretty greasy from the outside, so I did not go over to it.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to regret that, because maybe it could have been French fries, which is basically money.
Basically cash.
Yeah. It's okay. Is it, being a Tennessee Volunteers fan? How involved do you get into it?
There are some hardcores out there who probably don't listen to this podcast, so they're not going to care. But I pay really close attention if there's a chance that we're going to do well in a year, and then I tend to drift a tad when, say, our team is found out for trying to bribe recruits by sticking cash into McDonald's bags.
Yeah, I don't know if I would sneak it in a McDonald's bag. I feel like I would I would put it in like an empty Kraft macaroni and cheese box, because I'm just giving them that cheddar. Or I'd empty out like a can of like Cheese Whiz, because again, this is the only joke that I've got. I'm giving them that cheddar.
Oh man,
I don't know.
Cheddar cheese.
Okay, so that's fantastic. What I Googled this week, which actually did lead me to Wikipedia, as I was watching the inauguration, as the address, they kept talking about the nuclear football. And I, for one reason or another, just didn't know this. It wasn't in my American history textbook. But the nuclear football it's like this presidential emergency satchel, or like, it's like, just think of like a bulky briefcase. And it's like this, and it has like, it's for the president to authorize the nuclear attack while away from fixed command centers. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a big deal. Like, can you imagine, like, and I'm pretty sure that whoever's like carrying it around, like, they have to be like handcuffed to it.
Oh,
right?
yeah, it would have to be.
Like, they would have to be.
If movies have taught me anything.
Yeah. But anyways, I Googled that, and I was like, that's pretty wild. There's just so many things about the role of the president that I do not know, that I'm sure is going to be it's just fascinating. Like, as I was watching through The West Wing, every episode, I was like, the president has to do that too? The president has that as well? That's amazing. So, anyways, I Googled that, among many other things, as I was watching the inauguration, such as, is the bird on Lady Gaga's chest part of an American flag stand? And I couldn't find the answer. To that one, but I think it's probably going to hold up.
Yeah, probably. Either that, or it's a Hunger Games thing, probably.
Oh, there were so many Hunger Games jokes being thrown around on the 20th. It was quite enjoyable. Hey, we had a listener submit a question of the week, and it's quickly becoming my 3rd or 4th favorite part of the show. So, friends, if you have a question for Taylor and I to discuss, please send that in to writtentospeak@gmail.com, and we will throw up your question. We won't throw it up, but we'll talk about it on the podcast. I apologize for that reference. But the question of the week is terribly gross. Get a McDonald's bag ready. But make sure it's empty.
Yeah.
Make sure it's
you're
empty.
Want
because you never know.
Right.
You never know if it's gonna be French fries or cold hard cash or greasy cash. Could be greasy cash. All right. The question of the week, Taylor, is what is a song that always makes you emotional? And when I say emotional, I think I'm going to go down the route of like gives you the chills.
Yeah, sure.
And you can have more than one. We're not going to sing or play them, so we'll write them down in the show notes as well. Yeah. But you lead us off. We probably should have made this a draft, but
man,
but there's no time for that.
Yes, we.
How many do you have written down?
I've got 2 for kind of different reasons right now.
All right, it's a draft. You go first.
Okay. Draft. So, okay. My first one, I think I would have to say, and I don't feel bad for taking we did say emotional. So I'm going to go serious kind of right off the bat. But the classic hymn, It Is Well, written by, got a great name, Horatio Spafford. Anybody named Horatio Spafford? Horatio is just a great name. But
it's a fantastic name.
It's a fantastic name. But It Is Well, It Is Well With My Soul. It runs by a few different names. But just specifically the verse, and I believe it's the second verse, where it says, "My sin, oh the bliss of this glorious thought, my sin not in part but the whole, was nailed to the cross, and I bear it no more. Praise the Lord, oh my soul." Just something, every time when it gets to that verse about hearing the gospel again, and Tanner, we've talked about in the past on this podcast, the importance of kind of just daily reminding yourself of the gospel. It's just really, really that hits home, and it's an opportunity for me, I think, to just kind of reflect on God's grace, His love, and it just hits in that moment. But what's pick number 1 for you?
For me, it's I'm going to go the same route you did, and I have 2 other ones that are not hymns or worship songs, but for me, it's all creatures of our God and King. For some reason or other, that one just always, it's beautiful. And I am not a hymn guy. I grew up singing hymns at the church that we attended. But I've always been more into modern day worship. I know, so hip of me. But just singing over and over, oh, praise Him, praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, 3 in 1. That always, and it's those songs that there's this repetitiveness that I can see myself singing in heaven one day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's when you sing those songs where you can stop singing and everyone else is singing, and it's just this beautiful choir and crescendo of hope. And that's kind of like where I want to sit in. And that's one of those songs where it's like, we can just keep singing this one, can't we? We don't have to move on. Like, the sermon,
we can just stay here.
The sermon's probably not that important today. Let's just keep up with this one. So that's that one for me. Do you have another one? I knew I threw the draft right at you.
That's okay. I am ready. I'm ready with pick 2.
Okay.
Even though based on how I said
2.
I am ready, the first time made it sound like I was not ready. I was anything but ready. But I am ready. I am ready. Not scripted. So pick 2. I actually listened to this song today. Is a little song called Danny, Dakota, and the Wishing Well, by a band called A Silent Film. And it's this song where this couple, like, it's the sweet story where they kind of like grow up together as kids. the girl, she expresses her feelings for the guy, but he's freaked out. He doesn't know what to say. She runs away. She has another relationship. She moves away completely, has another relationship that falls through. She moves back to the hometown, and then in the end, they've got this wishing well that they used to meet at as kids. And so this guy, Danny, he keeps going there every year, thinking about it. He's crying. I'm crying. I'm not crying. You're crying. And then finally she knows he's going to be there, and then meets him at the wishing well. And they are together, and it's just great. And it's the most sappy thing you've ever heard in your entire life. But man, if it doesn't get me every time.
And it gets me every single time. Okay, well, I'm going to listen to that right after this. I just think my last pick. In the future, we might have to like draft worship songs or just songs in general that are like, that's the one. Yep. Anyways, yep. For me, and this isn't going to be, this shouldn't be a surprise to you. You know me pretty well. I'm going to go with a song from one of my favorite bands, Yellowcard. Oh yeah. And I grew up listening to this band. It was like their album Ocean Avenue was like one of the first CDs that I ever purchased.
Yep.
So it was, it's like, I would like to say that I'm pretty loyal to the things that I liked in middle school, which is probably an issue, especially when it comes to my eating habits. But so I've always just been, I don't know, enthralled and encouraged, and I kind of found myself in the lyrics that this band would put out. Yeah. And their very last album came out a couple of years ago, and the very last song on the album is called "Fields and Fences," and it's about a 6-7 minute song, and just beautiful, or so I think. And I can remember the album came out, and I went for a drive because when a band releases an album that I been looking forward to, I go for a drive, listen to it, and when that song came on, I chills just ran through my body. Were there tears? Yes. Did I console myself with French fries? Yes. But it was just one of those songs that just got yeah. Actually, that was it. I wiped my tears with Benjamin's. And yeah. But there's this line at the very end, and it says, "I don't have much that I can give to you, but I know I love the way you make me feel like I'm at home and I am not alone." And I like that, and it's a simple rhyme scheme or whatever it is, but I just really enjoy it. So yeah, I'll put that in the show notes as well. But we want to know from you guys who are listening, what are some songs that make you get emotional, and it can be embarrassing. Maybe it's the chicken dance song. I don't know if that is. Hey, well, that's right. That's probably an issue. But I don't know. There's some more. When I picked that question out to read today or to ask, I was like, oh, I'm not gonna do this one justice. But you know what, Taylor? I think we did. I think we did it justice.
Think we did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Man.
Hey, thanks so much for doing this podcast.
Hey, thank you for doing this podcast.
There's probably something on that Twitter thread that I was reading earlier where they probably want the podcast to have some concise ending, where they just kind of close it out beautifully, without flaw. That's not happening here.
No,
it's not.
No, it's not us.
This is a podcast where you and I, we're just happy to be here.
That's right. That's exactly right. JHTBH, my friend.
JHTBH, my friend. Just happy to be here. Hey, thanks so much for listening to another episode of the Just Happy to Be Here podcast with Taylor Jarman, which is not me, and Tanner Olson, who is me. If you like this podcast, or if you don't, just go ahead and subscribe. That'd mean a lot to us. And again, if you have any questions for us, we'd love to have your question be the question of the week. Send that question to writtentospeak@gmail.com. Or if you want to tell us the things that you've Googled which I want to know that. I want to know what other people are Googling so I can Google it too. Send that also to writtentospeak@gmail.com. Okay, Taylor, it's great talking to you.
Hey, likewise, my man.
I am going to go book another appointment for the dentist because I care about my teeth and I am a customer that got known today. That was a weird way to end the podcast. Anyways, man. All right, dude. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, man. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Just Happy to Be Here podcast. Again, if you have a question that you would like for Taylor and I to tackle, or you want to share something that you've Googled recently, send us a message to writtentospeak@gmail.com. You can find us really anywhere online. Just send us a message and we'll make sure it works its way onto the show. Make sure you check out the show notes before you go. And with that, I'm going to go. So thank you. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in a week, maybe 2 weeks, but probably just 1 week. We'll see you soon. Have a good one.